Okay, so we got this Nidek OPD scan, and it's got a bad problem. It rotates. Should not rotate. And when it's not perpendicular to the patient, the auto fire will not activate, because then these sensors are not the same distance to the cornea, and it doesn't know when to fire. So what we want is two things. We don't want this whole head here to rotate back and forth, so something in here is not right, needs to be fixed, and the slide back and forth here really drags. It should not have to push that hard. It should just be a fingertip motion to slide that back and forth. So we're going to take this apart and get in here at the bottom and figure out what's going on. Okay, so we got the panels off and we've got the head loosened, and we got it sitting 90 degrees here on the base. And here's our linear micro slides, and this whole system right here was loose. All these rails here that these micro slides move on, and the bearings and whatnot, and it's pretty dirty in here too, so we're going to clean that up. We haven't cleaned it yet, but I have tightened everything down, and they had some wrong screws in here, whoever worked on this, but anyways, that's really not important. We can get around that. But that's our problem, and now this thing doesn't cant back and forth. It doesn't, nothing twists. It's either this way or this way. There's no cocking back and forth, rotation of the head. So when I get the head mounted back on, this thing will be just perfect. And here we just worked on this fan, and we just cleaned out all the dust off this main board. And if you look under here, notice that this heat sink here is not sitting flat. As you can see, it's not all the way down on the IC chip that it's supposed to be protecting. So if you go in here and look a little bit closer, you've got a hook here that's soldered to the board that this clips into. And back over here, you've got a hook that isn't hooked. So this guy right here, right there, should be hooked down there. And let's see if I can get some light on it so you can see what I'm talking about. Down there, there's a little hook. Let's see if I can grab it for you. That guy right there. That should be soldered to the board, and that's what that other hook hooks into to hold down that. So we need to solder this back to the board so that the heatsink works properly and we don't end up burning out that IC chip. Okay, so we removed this last screw. It's hidden back down here, right there. And now we can finish pulling this board out. And we can solder those two holes right there in the middle of the screen. Right back there. There's two holes right there. So fix that, and we'll be back in business. And there's the IC chip that the heatsink is protecting. So we'll solder that up and put it back together, and should be it. We cleaned out this fan here because it was real dirty, and we may end up having to replace it because it's making a lot of noise. So we'll see when we fire it back up if that noise goes away. If it doesn't, we'll have to replace it. Okay, so we got this guy soldered back in, and I actually went ahead and reinforced this one on the other side so it doesn't come out, because if one's defective, they typically end up all being defective. It means they were just inserted improperly, or someone didn't know how to unhook this heatsink properly and ended up tugging on it too hard and pulled it out. Who knows? Anyhow, we'll clip this back together. Clip this one in here first. Come at an angle here. Lay down the heat sink like that. Trying to do this with one hand, and then you clip the other side in like that. Now we have a properly inserted heat sink and ready to rock and roll. So I guessed wrong. That fan's still pretty loud after I turn it on, and it settles down after about 10 minutes, but that just means it's wearing out, and you don't want that fan to go out, because then the chip underneath is going to burn out, and that's a very expensive mistake. So it's a cheap fan, you know, they're just a few bucks, you might as well just replace them. It's not worth playing games with, but I don't like replacing components unless I absolutely have to, so in this case we definitely have to. So we'll pull this out, unscrew this, put a new fan in. Okay, so now that I've got the fan in, we'll do a little test firing here. Turn it on. See the fan's working. And we cleaned those fans back there. There's two of them in there. There's another one back there, trust me. Two fans. And those are pretty dirty. But they're in good shape now. This whole thing's running nice and quiet, as you can hear. This thing's open. And it was really loud with that other fan we took out. This guy here is toast. I took it apart and tried to clean it, but to no avail. It's done. Bearings are shot. Okay, so we've got the shielding back on, got the screws back in, we've got the power cables connected, we've got all the wires routed and tied down. We'll put this tie back into this slot here. We lift this board up, and we'll put everything back into the OPD. Okay, it's fired up. Ooh, listen to that. Nice and quiet. Sounds like a regular computer. That sounds good. We also cleaned out the fans on the power supply, took those apart, took the bearings out. They were full of dust, cleaned them, and put it back together. It's a lot cheaper than replacing them. You can just do a quick cleaning on those. They come apart real easy if you know how to do it. Okay, there we go. We're up and running. Okay, here we go. Here's the finished product. We went ahead and put it back together and turned it on. See, it slides back and forth real easy now. It's got good lateral movement, good back and forth movement. But we cleaned them up, got the dust out. And it's a good looking machine. All done. Okay, so we'll go ahead and turn it off. Just hit the power button right here. Say OK. Shut her down. Shuts off nice.